Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show. What a show it's proving to be, because in the studio is the leader of the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch. Lovely to see you this morning. I know you've been going from studio to studio. I'm just going to fill you in on James Murray telling me that it was fine that they were £4.2 billion in surplus. They didn't tell anyone because this is the way that budgets are planned out, and she can raise taxes if she wants to. And there was then a to and fro about whether or not there was a 20 billion black hole. Well, that's what officials briefed to the media. So can we just clear this up? Because you're the leader of the opposition. Were you given the impression that there was a 20 billion black hole in Britain's finances on November the 4th?
It was a big press conference, the Cheerios briefing, you may remember. I was giving a speech that day, and I had to stop what I was doing to watch it. And I just thought, what on earth was that? Why is she doing this? She knew exactly what she was doing. She was trying to pitchroll higher taxes. She was trying to send a signal to the markets. This is why we have written a letter to the Financial Conduct Authority. We think there may have been some market abuse. But the bottom line, Camilla, is that she told a lie. She said that there wasn't any money. The OBR said that there was, and it's shown evidence that they had told her that.
Your sentences of up to 10.
She wanted to raise money for welfare, and that's what she did. Okay. This was a bung for benefits.
On this FCA investigation that you've recommended along with Mel Stride, Dan Hodges has pointed out in the Mail on Sunday that if you are found to have misled the markets, criminal sanctions for insider dealing and market manipulation can incur custodial sentences of up to 10 years and unlimited fines. I mean, it sounds improbable, the idea of a Chancellor going to jail about this.
The thing is, if a CEO had behaved like this before they gave an annual report, that's what would be happening. Just coming out, saying things to try and get the bond markets to treat you a little bit more nicely so you can find money for welfare benefits, that is absolutely wrong. But the worst thing is that she's raised taxes now on a lot of working people who are now paying for benefits when they're struggling themselves. Telegraph today talks about £18,000 worse off, the families that are not on benefits. The average family that she's given money to is getting an extra £5,000. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
500,000 families, Rachel Reeves has given an extra £5,000. We think that's wrong, and that's why we would reverse the cap.
We'll get on to welfare in just a minute, because I do want to ask you about your own plans to slash welfare. But on the Chancellor and now the PM, the revelation on the front of the Sunday Tell, he also knew that we were £4.2 billion in surplus. So should they both go?
If he knew, as I tweeted this morning, then yes, he is just as implicated. Because let's remember,
you can't really, this is the trouble. You can say all this, it's rhetoric. You can't really do anything about it. It's the same with Nigel Farage saying, there could be an early general election in 2027. What levers can either of you pull?
Well, what we can do is what Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, has done today. Ask that the Financial Conduct Authority investigate. They may find that we're correct. They may decide that maybe they had just cause. But what I think is really awful is that a lot of people heard what they said. There are some people who drew down their pension because they were worried about what was going to happen. Some people left the country, I'm hearing, because of the talk about the exit tax. Others were fixing their mortgages because they thought it was going to be, so terrible. She came out there, she held that press conference telling everyone that she was going to raise taxes, changed her mind 3 days later, and is now creating, just a gigantic welfare state, which we cannot afford.
All right, well, let's get on to that, because the criticism of the Tories in all this will be as follows, right? It's all very well, you're now talking about tax cuts. You put up taxes 20 different times when you were in office. It was a big tax and spend administration. You actually left a tax burden of 36.1% when Rishi Sunak left office. Meanwhile, welfare, again, it went up under the Conservatives. If you now look at this welfare bill scheduled to go up by 70 billion by the end of Parliament, so it's going to be at £403 billion. James Murray couldn't confirm or deny that, but that's the truth of the statistics. You saying that you're going to cut, 23 billion off welfare, it's not even going to touch the sides. You're going to have to go far further than that commitment.
So let me first of all start by saying I'm not here to say that everything we did in government was perfect. It absolutely
let's hope not,
was not.
The audience will be throwing
it
things
was
at the telly if you say
We
that.
made mistakes. That's the difference between us and Labour, is that I can stand up and say that previous Conservative governments made mistakes. We've got to own up to that. Here are some of the mistakes we made. We put up taxes too high, and here's how we're going to fix it. That is my job. I can't just say, oh, well, we made mistakes, so, let's just cry into our soup. There are people out there who need solutions. And you're right. What we're talking about is £47 billion. So we're not rushing out with lots of...
£47 billion
in terms of savings. It's, the 23 billion comes from welfare.
I know, but that's do you agree with me now that 23 billion isn't enough? Even Jeremy Hunt, who seems to have become more right-wing since he left the Treasury, has suggested that if you restore working age benefits back to what they were pre-pandemic, you'll automatically save 47 billion.
Yes, that's what
I'm saying. Pardon the pun, you're being too conservative with your welfare.
Well, that 47 billion is what I'm talking about. We're starting in a sensible place. Let's go back to 2019 levels. But remember, Camilla, we are the only party that is doing this. Labour, Lib Dems, Reform, SNP, Greens, Plaid, they all wanted that two-child benefit cap lifted. All of them did. So there's only one party that's talking about living within our means.
In Reform's defence, and they've issued a briefing paper about this, they are saying that they want to encourage the birth rate among British citizens. We agree, don't we? We're in a population crisis. Immigrants are having a lot of children. Indigenous Brits, if we can call them that, aren't. So Farage is saying we want to scrap the cap if, and these are the qualifications, both parents are working, both are British citizens. Now, that caveats that policy somewhat, doesn't it?
Do you know what? It may caveat some bits of the policy, but it doesn't address the real issue, which is that we are not growing as an economy. We need growth policies. We didn't see that in the budget. Well, Reform are now caveating this now because they didn't realise what they'd announced previously. And this is what we always get with them. They say stuff, and then they get a realisation that it doesn't work that way, and then they scrabble to try and fix it. We had that cap in place for a good reason. I know, a lot of people make decisions not to have more children that they can't afford. They should not then be paying for other people to have those children.
But then you need to find some kind of magic formula. And I asked my brilliant producer, Elizabeth, who does a lot of research for this show, to find out what the growth rate was in the post-war period, OK? National Institute of Economic and Social Research, it estimated that growth fell from 3.4% a year in the post-war period up to 1973, OK? Then it was up to 2.3% until the 2008 financial crisis. It's averaged 1.2% since. So growth has been sclerotic, anaemic, whatever word you want to choose, under the Tories as it has under Labour. Liz Truss tries to do something about this and the budget blows up in her face. So why will you be any different?
Because we are starting from a principle of balancing the books. The reason why that mini budget went wrong is because they had £150 billion of spending on people's energy bills without explaining how we'd pay for it. It was too much spending, not enough when we should have been cutting spending. This is the same thing Labour is doing. A lot of people think that that budget didn't work because of tax cuts. It was too much spending. We are saying now, we have our golden economic rule, we're going to make savings, we use the savings to pay down the deficit and tax cuts. We balance the books.
You're not going to be able to afford to scrap stamp duty now, are you? If you got into power in 3 to 4 years' time.
Yes, we
can. Totally unaffordable.
Yes, we can. And it is because stamp duty, like many other taxes, actually depresses growth. People aren't buying houses. The housing market is completely gummed up. People aren't buying houses. They're not downsizing. And you know, that means a lot of people starting out their first family want their first home. Sorry, not their first family, get their first home.
Yes.
They're just not buying. Yeah. You scrap stamp duty, there are more jobs. People.
It's expensive. How much does it cost to scrap stamp duty?
Well, we had cautious estimates. You know, about 10 billion. That is cautious. I honestly believe that it won't cost that much, but we're starting with a cautious estimate because we are responsible. Okay. Stamp duty will help grow the economy. People hire decorators, they have housing extensions, or they start buying things in the shops. We need to stimulate growth. There are other taxes, like what they're doing on family farms, genuinely going to disrupt farming in our country.
Kemi Badenoch, thank you very much indeed for joining me in the studio once again. Great to see you.
Thank you, Camilla.
Thank you. Well,